Hello, time for another Man in Gray book review. Today's book is Who Was Ulysses S. Grant by Megan Stine, with illustrations by Edward Geyer. This book was published by Penguin Books in 2014. It's 106 pages. Excuse me. This is part of the Penguin Books Who Is or Who Was book series. These are short little biographies aimed at elementary school students, and they're all heavily illustrated with pen and ink drawings. Usually there's a drawing on at least every other page, and sometimes, as you can see here, on every page. So there's lots of little illustrations here. And this book series has been extremely successful. Penguin has published over 250 volumes in this series. So it's been quite successful. This particular volume, of course, is about Ulysses S. Grant, who was president of the United States and also the top general of the Union side during the Civil War. Now, this book basically goes through his life story. Now, a lot of people point to the fact that Lincoln was born in a log cabin and he had almost no education, and yet he somehow wound up becoming president of the United States, and how unlikely that is. But in a lot of ways, Grant's rise to the presidency was even more unlikely. He was born into a humble family. His father was a tanner, tanned leather. He didn't do particularly well. Ulysses didn't do particularly well in school, and his father managed to get him appointed to West Point so that he hopefully would have some kind of education, because his father was too poor to afford one. And as it says here, Grant really didn't enjoy being in the military. And he didn't get very good grades. He graduated near the bottom of his class, although he was really good as a horseman, always an excellent rider, and he had a way with horses. He was also, it doesn't say it here, but other biographies have shown that he was also quite good at drawing maps. He had a great ability to visualize topography and record maps, and this came in very handy when he became a general and was able to view entire battlefields in his head. His early days were quite difficult. He didn't enjoy being in the military. He fell in love with a woman named Julia, whom he married, and they were devoted their whole lives. But he spent much of his early days in the military separated from her, and especially when he got sent to Texas for the Mexican War. And it was during this period that he began drinking heavily, and this little book doesn't shy away from the fact that he did have a drinking problem, especially early in his career. He left the military, did a series of jobs, none of which worked out. He tried farming, he tried being a store owner, nothing really worked. When the Civil War broke out, he found it was difficult for him to get a commission because of his reputation and the fact that he had lousy grades at West Point. But when he did finally get an officer position, he rose very rapidly through the ranks, because it was clear that he had a gift for leadership that other people hadn't realized at the time. And of course, eventually, his successes in the Western theater, particularly at the Battle of Vicksburg, projected him up into the top ranks, and eventually he became the lieutenant general, the head general of the entire Union forces. And his relentless pursuit of Robert E. Lee eventually led to the defeat of the Army of Northern Virginia and the end of the Civil War. And then after that, because of his war hero status, he was elected president. And then after his presidency, he went on a worldwide tour where he was feted as a hero all over the world. Even went to Japan, where he planted a tree, which is still there. And when he came back, he invested unwisely in a company that went bankrupt after one of the company people embezzled all the money and disappeared. And then it was at that time that Grant developed throat cancer from the dozens of cigars he smoked all the time. He constantly was smoking cigars. And so Mark Twain came to him and offered to publish his memoirs. And so he frantically wrote as quickly as he could, because he knew he was dying. He wanted to get the memoirs finished so that his family could have money to live on. And, of course, the books turned out to be one of the biggest best-selling books of the 19th century, the two-volume memoirs of Grant. And it made enough money for Julia and their children to live on. So it's a fascinating story. Grant was a very flawed individual, but he had great skill when it came to leading armies. He was devoted to protecting the rights of freed slaves. His attitude toward Native Americans was much more problematic. He, of course, while he was president, many native tribes were forced off their land into reservations under horrible conditions. Anyway, this book gives a great little summary for young readers of who Grant was. And so if your kids are interested in history or you want them to get interested in American history, this is a really interesting volume to introduce. And a lot of these books are quite good, especially the ones on historical characters, the ones pop characters and so forth may be a little bit more problematic. The book is Who Was Ulysses S. Grant? The author is Megan Stine. This has been another Man in Great Book Review. Thanks for watching.